Peter Franklin is the Gabby Cabby. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning, good morning. I'm not a gypsy.
Listen, you would not have to worry about that because you don't have the rural driveways in Manhattan that we have up here. And, you know, they'll come in and do the whole neighborhood, and everybody thinks they're getting a deal, and then the driveway washes away.
What's a driveway?
Peter, a couple of interesting stories here. I like the Metropolitan Museum of Art story where the security guard was hit over the head. For what reason? What happened?
Well, it was that he said that one of the paintings were crooked, and I don't buy that story. Well, I think what he hit him over the head was because he had paid so much to get into the Met. It really costs, I don't know what the current price is today, but it really costs you a bundle to get in there.
Wow.
And they're not bashful about it because as you line up to go into the Met, and it's a wonderful building and it's all very nice, which of course is tax exempt in every possible way, they charge you a bundle. So making my smart aleck remark was, had nothing to do with the picture being crooked. It had to do with he didn't like the admission fee.
But he really did.
Anyway, he'll go to the slam or...
It wasn't, so it's the security guard that got hit, right, over the head with a bottle?
Yeah, the security guy had nothing to do with it.
The
guy walked up to him and said, "Why is that painting crooked?" I mean, isn't that something you generally do when you go into museums?
Absolutely.
You go up to the guard and you say, "Hey, why is that painting crooked?"
My question is, how do you get the bottle in there? I mean, they're usually really, really tight when it comes to any food or beverages inside.
Yeah, but they probably sell bottles. There's bottles to drink.
Right. $10 bottles of water.
And then there's bottles for hitting the guards.
There's a big talk up here about Uber coming, and then Uber's in the news, the guys in the cab arguing or in the Uber car arguing. Is it having an effect on taxis in New York?
Well, the media is claiming that, and they're saying that there's even less people riding the subway, which, of course, is ridiculous because the people who ride the subway aren't the people who are taking the Ubers. So I find it inconceivable that somebody is on the subway, Mr. Average Person, and then he says, no, from now on I'm going to have a chauffeur-driven car. But it's having some effect. I mean, but it's like anything else in business. If you do a good job, if you're neat, you're nice, you're polite, you know what you're doing. If you're a yellow cab driver, like I am, it has absolutely no effect.
Yeah.
The problem with Uber is that everything around it's surrounded with some kind of mystery. I mean, for instance, the guy that runs Uber in New York City is a former big shot for the Taxi and Limousine Commission. You can't get any tighter than that.
Yeah. How about the story of the Canadian tourist? They're talking about this up there, that was in a hotel room in the West Village and ended up getting choked by somebody, a robber that used a hairdryer, the cord on a hairdryer.
Yeah, the cord of it around the thing. I think the amazing part of the story, or the side story, is that he had something like $12,000 in cash. Very quick, Bill. How much money you got in your pocket right now?
I have like $4 in my pocket.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who travels? Who travels? And what struck me so strange about the news article, and it appeared in the New York Times, that's where I first got hold of it, and I was talking to some people about it. The reporter for the New York Times who wrote the article just casually mentioned that the guy had $12,000 with him. That seems to me is the story.
Yeah.
And why were those people coming to his room in the first place? I think Inspector Clouseau could have figured out it was probably a drug deal that ran, awry, as they say.
It is interesting, though, and you would know this, that in the jewelry district of New York City, a lot of people will go from upstate or wherever. They go into the jewelry district and they buy their jewelry and bring it back and sell it in their stores upstate.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a big attraction. There's a lot of cash floating around on that street.
Yeah.
The reason it doesn't get more robberies than it does is that there's no way to get away.
Right.
In other words, you can't have a car sitting outside a building on that street and then, zoom off because you're not zooming any place. The traffic is so tremendous. So they actually don't have that many robberies there. But usually when they do, it's a doozy. Usually it is with somebody having $12,000 in his pocket. But now that you have announced to everybody that you only have $4 in your pocket, I say that you're safe.
I think I'm safe. And then I wanted to ask you about, I'm hearing that Rikers Island has really, let's just say if you get sent to that prison, it's not going to be good.
No, it's a terrible place. It's a horrible place. I've been a resident of there for a while in my youth, and it's just absolutely terrible. And now all of a sudden they're discovering that they're kind of mean and nasty and evil to the prisoners, and they sell them drugs and they do kinds of things. I found for the period of time I was there that I couldn't tell who was more deranged, the correction officers, ooh, is that going to get complaints, or the prisoners. It's a terrible, terrible place, which means kids don't what do they say? Don't do the crime if you're going to get the time. But it's a nasty place with nasty people.
I've never asked you because I've known you've said this a few times, but how did you end up there?
You mean how did I end up in the big house?
Yeah.
No, there was a criminal thing that happened in the taxi industry in New York City, and I was called as a witness by a judge, and the judge seemed to think that I knew something, which I honestly didn't. I really didn't know anything about it, and she wasn't happy with that answer, so she held me in contempt of court. And that's a pretty open-ended kind of thing. A judge can keep you in jail as long as she or he wants, pretty much so. And I didn't rat the story out because I didn't know it, but I became a hero of the underground. They said no matter what you do to Big Pete, Pete doesn't talk, and eventually higher court let me go. But now, I walk down the street to the bad guys separate. They walk away from it. They name him Big Pete.
Big Pete. Here comes Big Pete. I love it. And Big Pete, you had a chance to see a celebrity sighting. My wife is a huge Harry Connick fan.
Well, I did.
Okay.
No,
there you go.
I don't know. Sometimes, I do that as a little feature on the website, but then I downplay it by saying, you see the celebrity, and they kind of, especially on the streets in New York, they look like, we do, and, they're dressed like we do, and they're not in a limousine or anything, and you say, wait a minute, who is that guy?
No big deal.
Well, I know who he was. Did I go to school with him? Was I in the Army with him? Was I in jail with him? No, it's Harry Connick,
Best tour in New York City. Go to Gabby.com for details. Peter.
Ex-con? You're going to promote an ex-con?
Yeah. Go with the ex-con. Peter, thanks so much. Enjoy your week. We'll talk to you next week.